Alrighty guys, Sasquatch here, just leaving Bend. Had snowfall overnight. It's a little icy, truck was sliding a bit on the road, but just gonna take our time, take it nice and easy, because that's what you do in winter. We're gonna do the Three Sisters. We're gonna punch through the Cascades, but there's a big snowstorm that's supposed to be going on all of today into tomorrow, ending Sunday night. So those routes are right now not all that desirable. So believe it or not, the route we came in, the 26, as long as we stay off the 35, which is the higher elevation, like summit route, we should be good, because that's the main road that gets plowed. So we're going to go back through Mount Hood again, complete the cycle, because it's winter, and like I said, you just got to do what you can do in winter, right? It is what it is. There's not much really else I can say on that. But anyways, guys, this is Bend. Bend's a really cool town, because it's up and coming. For like the last 10 years, it's made like one of the highest growth towns in America. Like, it's the most people in America are moving here. I think it's like number 8 or something. Because it's really cool, because it's like, it's not near Portland or like Seattle or any of the big cities, but it's kind of out in the bush, and it's got some cool nature. And one of the best burgers I ever had in Bend, frankly, last night, that burger was really, really good. So it's a really cool place. There's lots of nature here. It's one of the only cities that has a volcano in the actual city, like an extinct volcano, obviously, but not really my scene. But you know, if you're into that kind of a thing, then it's a great place to come. So we're just on the highway heading towards Portland. Highway 97 here. We're heading towards the Dalles. So traveling in winter, guys, there's a little secret I don't think anybody aside from freaks like me know about. So the Cascades is our final barrier, guys. Once we cross the Cascades, we're going to be back on the coast, and then we're into coastal environment, which is going to be above freezing, warm. Portland, Seattle, Vancouver, that's all just rain, right? That's what driving in rain is. We still have to cross through the Cascades. There's a warning, 8 to 10 inches above 4,000 feet with 12 inches at the crest, right? We had that coming down. And to get over the mountains, you've got to go up high, right? Like you've got to get over the mountains through. So how are we going to do that without running into snow? Well, there's a little secret, and I'm giving it away here, but it's, you know, it's part of my video, so I'll do it. The Columbia River Gorge, guys. The Columbia River goes at sea level. The Columbia River Gorge is the only sea level access route through the Cascades. So once we get to the Columbia River Gorge, the Dalles and stuff, we're going to ride through the gorge. And that will allow us to travel at sea level and not go up in elevation. Like even now it's 1 degree. We've gone up in elevation, right? It's already, so as soon as you gain elevation, it gets cold. So by us going through the Columbia River Gorge at sea level, we're going to minimize the amount of climbing that we have to do. And then we're in the Columbia Basalts. These are all Columbia Basalt flows. But this is the 197. This is a spur. So the 97's off kind of more that way. So we're just driving on top of the plateau right now, on top of the basalts, and then making our way towards the Dalles. So if you're ever driving in winter and you need to cross through the Cascades and you're scared of the elevation, rightly so, because that's what will cause this white powder, which we all hate as drivers, make your way to the Columbia River Gorge and drive through the Columbia River Gorge. What you don't have to deal with is high elevation. We want to take the path of least resistance. Gotta start speaking 2 languages now. Miles and kilometers and Fahrenheit and Celsius. I still spell color with a U though. The warning is for above 4,000 feet. And Mount Hood, I can guarantee you, goes over 4,000 feet. Yeah. So no, this is not happening. We're just under 4,000 right now. This is a good road though.
Yeah.
Paved, salted, nicely painted.
Yep.
Plowed. This will take us to the gorge, and then we're at sea level almost the whole way down, guys. We'd be going over that right now in Mount Hood. I think we went the right way. It's a well-traveled road. I'm going like half the speed limit, but I don't even care.
Yeah,
it's winter. No, it's winter conditions. Drive to conditions. We get there when we get there. Bends is where you spin out. Totally cool how the terrain just keeps changing, eh?
Yeah.
Like it's still desert. Like this is still technically the Great Basin. The Great Basin's like actually quite mountainous.
Pretty.
It looks like a sea of fog. But the whole valley is like, you can see the whole valley. We're above it right now. The whole valley is covered in it. Almost out of the ice territory. This is terrifying. I can't see shit. This is the big windies coming up here.
This is a one.
Oh my!
Yeah.
Like this is like an ass quencher. Yeah, and I'm also driving a huge pickup truck. Alrighty, guys. So here we are, Moppin, gateway to the Deschutes country, guys. Moppin Bridge here. So we just came up that mountain there. We're going to be heading down into the Columbia River Gorge soon. We got one more plateau area to cross, and then we're going to be good. But this is mopping, guys. The Dalles, 41 miles, Madras Bend. Just taking our time, nice and easy. Here we are, Columbia River Gorge, Interstate 84. So we're on the Oregon side. We're in the gorge. We're at sea level, which is what I wanted. I wanted us to be at sea level. I didn't want any elevation. We'll go up a little bit up and down in the gorge, but this side in particular is really nice. It's just an interstate. Like you saw the Evergreen Highway on the Washington side, that's all windy. This is nice and easy. Alrighty guys, so Bonneville Dam, those are the floodgates. You can see they got them slightly open, but this is how they control water on the Columbia. Flood control, you hear me talk about flood control all the time? That's pretty much it, guys. That's flood control. It's just how much water are you letting through and how much are you keeping. That's the fish ladder. Allows the fish to get around the dam, right? Very important. Salmon got to get back to their home. Quite a sophisticated operation. So they're generating power over here because you see those power lines. So this is the powerhouse. That's where they're generating power. And then that's flood control. And you can tell because there's no power lines here. There's just gates and a dam. Over here, there's power lines. So that's the powerhouse. That's the flood control. They're two separate operations, but in the same dam. And then in between the flood control and the powerhouse is the fish ladder, which allows the fish to go past the dam because they need to get back up into BC where they spawned. Because when salmon want to die, they have to return to where they first spawned in the river, right, at their home. And a lot of times that's up in Idaho or BC, like Columbia Lake in the Kootenays there. That whole area, that's where they come from. But they go out in the ocean, swim around the ocean for a few years and then come back. But this fish ladder is pivotal to them being able to actually go up and down the river. Columbia River in the Columbia River Gorge, full of lava. So yeah, guys, Bonneville Dam in Oregon, on the Oregon side. If you look over to the other side there, that's Washington. So we got Washington here, the border, and then Oregon, right? Welcome to Oregon, everybody. Yay, Oregon. We're starting to get right out to the mouth of the Columbia. So Columbia Lake near Fairmont Hot Springs, Radiant Fairmont Hot Springs, that's where Columbia River starts, is Columbia Lake. I've done the video on that. And Astoria, Oregon, on the ocean is where the Columbia River ends. One of the largest rivers in North America, guys, the Columbia. Portland's like 40 miles, guys, from here. We're really close to Portland. This is the Columbia River Gorge. There's a huge series of basaltic shield volcanoes out in Idaho, and they erupted like many millions of years ago, and they caused what's called the Columbia River flood basalts. These basaltic volcanoes went off for many, many years, just pushing all this lava up, and it flowed all the way to the Columbia River, all the way through the Columbia River out to the ocean, and it created this gorge. And then about 7 million years ago, a big flood, the Missoula floods. So a big glaciation up in Canada. Canada was basically all frozen ice. There was no usable land. And then the glacier started to retreat. And there was an ice dam up in Idaho that had this lake that was holding this lake back, and that broke. And when that dam broke, similar to what they're worried about in Squamish with the lava dam, the Garibaldi Lake, when that broke, it caused a huge cascading flood that cut this gorge. There's terraces in the gorge, and you can actually tell from those terraces where the high water line was, because those terraces are formed by the river eroding different levels of the gorge at different times. Floods that we can't conceptualize in modern day. It's the biggest floods ever recorded in North America. There's been bigger floods in Asia, Africa, various other places, but from like a North American standpoint, this is it basically. So you had all these flood basalts that created this. It's similar to like when you drive up in BC, there's the plateau. It's really mountainous, and all of a sudden it gets really flat, like just really suddenly, it's really flat. There's no mountains anymore. That's because there's a huge bunch of basaltic volcanoes in the middle of BC, and they filled up the valley bottoms and formed into a plateau. So there used to be mountains under there, but they're buried by like thousands of feet of basaltic lava. So this is the same concept here, basically. Two floods. A flood of lava that came down, and then a flood of water, the Missoula floods. And there's two railway lines that go through here. It's a major railway hub, one on either side of the valley. Huge winery country, too. Everybody comes here, gets married, weddings,
wine and events. And, it's pretty much like if you live Portland, Seattle, like this kind of area of the world, this is where you're gonna come to do your recreation and stuff. So, but this is the gorge, guys, and it just winds with the river. We were saying yesterday how windy the road is, and that's literally just because the it follows the river.
Alrighty, guys, so here we are. Columbia River Gorge, Sternwheeler, Cascade Locks, Oregon. We get Sasquatch there, eh? They built this to help stop the rapids, because there used to be a huge, really vicious set of rapids in here. And yeah, it wasn't good. So they built Cascade Locks to try and stop the rapids, right? But then they built the Bonneville Dam, and that kind of did away with Cascade Locks. You see here, that's Bridge of the Gods. So that's huge landslide that came through the area and just blocked the Columbia River. And then when it blocked the Columbia River, people could cross over from one side to another. So they called it Bridge of the Gods, right? This big, huge, it's covered in trees and grass now, but it used to just be this big landslide. And then eventually the Columbia River found a way around it, and it became the Columbia River again. You can see it's really wide and then it narrows right here. The sky clears up and cooperates. Mount Hood should be there. So you can come here, get a Sternwheeler tour if you want, get a view of Mount Hood. Washington is on the other side there, so we're going to continue on and hit the historic parkway. Alrighty, guys, so you can see here, see the rock formations? That's the basalt that I was talking about. You can see kind of where the water lines have been over the years. You can see like distinct kind of like divisions. And there's, in one place, there's like actual like terraces where you can see different periods where the water level was. But this is all lava, it's all basalt. And this all came from the interior, the Columbia River basalts. Most photographed spot in Oregon, guys. There's a bridge here. Feels like Rivendell or something from Lord of the Rings. Blue Star Memorial Highway, tribute to the armed forces that defended the United States of America. Just under the highway right now. Multnomah Falls, Columbia River Gorge, National Scenic Area. This is the lava flows, guys. 620 some feet. Multnomah. See all the lava flows. The moss. The Columbia River National Scenic Area is here today because of the overwhelming desire to preserve the beauty of the gorge and its natural habitats. Yeah, no kidding. That's the viewpoint there. The rocks are rolling. Water relentlessly sculpts the walls of the Columbia River Gorge. You can see evidence of this erosion at nearly any waterfall. Look for curving cliffs, which form amphitheater-like basins. As water flows into tiny cracks in cliff walls, it freezes and thaws, wedging the rock apart. Frost jacking, it's known as. Over time, large chunks of cliff come hurtling to the ground below. Falling rocks are common occurrence at Multnomah. On Labor Day, 1995, a bus-sized piece of basalt fell from behind the waterfall pool. This is all basalt, guys. All basalt. It's getting sprayed here by the water. It's nice. If you look up, this all lava came in, filled this all in, and then the waterfalls came, right? And sculpted the landscape. You can see rainforest here. Big trees, moss, lichen, all kinds of stuff, right? But Multnomah Falls, guys, this is a really, really nice waterfall. Most photographed place in Oregon. It's in the Columbia River Gorge, right? Like right in it, off the highway. This was all at one point molten hot lava. And it came from Idaho. It's right, this is the bridge, guys. Real nice bridge. Great place for a photo.
So you see here, there's these batholiths. That's batholith is just a big mass of rock that is no longer active, but that's a batholith of lava. So the floods would have come through this whole area and carved all of this out. Pretty cool. But when you drive in Oregon, like Eastern Oregon, Eastern Washington, you're driving all through Columbia basalt lavas. It's called an igneous province. It's like the size of a state, basically.
Latourell Falls. It's down there. Oh, here's a trail. Perfect. Alrighty, guys. So, Latourell Falls. Doing the waterfall tour here in Oregon. This is the one with the basalt columns in it. There's more basalt. Basalt, basalt, basalt. Everything's basalt. So here we are, guys, Latourell. And you can see the basalt columns, right? See those octagon looking things? Those are basalt columns. Columnar basalt. Latourell. Whew. Sprayed. But that's the columns of basalt, guys. It's basically the basalt cools really fast and it forms those columns. You can see 6-sided, 4-sided, 8-sided columns. So when somebody says, oh, basalt column, that's what they're talking about, right? It's really cool though. They look like little octagon shapes. There's thousands of them. It's when the lava cooled really fast and they come from the top and the bottom and they form those columns. It's cold over there. Yeah. You can see the wind blowing the waterfall. I love the look of the basalt though. Yeah, and guys, it's just the way that it cools. It cools in a specific way under certain conditions that it forms columns. And that's how you get it. Let's see if I can get closer. And it forms like a big amphitheater kind of a thing. So guys, that was Latourell Falls. Real nice. All basalt, basaltic waterfalls. And they basically they didn't have the erosion power of the Columbia, so that's why they're waterfalls. The force of the floods of the Columbia were so hard, like it was 1,000 feet deep, guys. It's hard to imagine nowadays. 1,000-foot flood. It's this place in the summertime, holy.
Okay guys, so Columbia River Gorge. The whole time we're driving on the border. We're basically right on the Oregon border. The Columbia River is the Oregon border. This is the historic Columbia River Highway. This is really windy, narrow, not that great of a road, to be honest. But it was the original road through the Cascades, and they've done a lot of work to it. But they built the interstates, right? And then once they built the interstates, they kind of did away with the need for this highway. But it's really nice, and this is how you would have traveled back in the day in a Model T. Imagine taking a Model T on this road. And we're about to hit a whole bunch of switchbacks here. Oh yeah, that's the west for you. It's casual, brutal death if you drive off. Take off that. Right. They all have their stone guardrails. You can tell it's old. It's an old highway. It's built in like the 20s, I think. 1910s, 1920s. Yeah, it's an old road. It's windy as a bastard here, guys. Columbia River Gorge. Crafted by cataclysms. Ecologists tell us the Cascade Range formed more than 35 million years ago as plates of the Earth's crust collided. Then 20 million years ago, molten basalt gushing from cracks near Idaho border covered 80,000 square kilometers and shifted the Columbia River north to its present location. During the last ice age, melting ice dams in Montana released massive floods that scoured this canyon, perhaps 100 times. Water so high they surged over the top of Crown Point. Helped by these floods, the Columbia cut through layers of stone faster than her smaller tributaries, creating the greatest concentration of high waterfalls in North America. Lava no longer flows to laminate this landscape. An ice age is long past, but the gorge remains dynamic. Landslides continue to move mountains, and tiny crystalline droplets caught in winter's freeze crack the cliffs, etching another season of the Columbia River Gorge. Holy! We're gonna leave Oregon now, cross the Columbia River, go back into Vancouver, and then onwards. We cleared the Cascades, guys. We're back on the coast. Now we're just heading north again, as usual, Canada.
Alrighty, guys. We just crossed the Columbia River now. Oregon thanks you. Come back soon.
Oh, we're in Vancouver already.
Vancouver, yeah. Welcome to Vancouver.
No, we're not.
Washington. So yeah, Columbia River. This is the border, guys. So once we cross over, we're back in Washington again. So we're driving up the volcanic arc now. It starts down in Northern California, and we're driving up it. It ends in Squamish Lake area, Mount Meager in Pemberton. That's basically the end of the volcanic arc. And Mount Shasta in Northern California is the beginning, the southern portion. So we're in the middle of it right now. So that will conclude our Columbia River Gorge show. So if you like this kind of stuff, there's going to be a lot more of it. Make sure you like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to get notified. Also, check out SasquatchProspector.com for like vlogs, photos, all kinds of stuff on there. And thanks for watching. Sasquatch Prospector.